Jen asked me this question, and now I love asking everyone.
Yeah.
Is how you would feel if tomorrow you woke up and you were the opposite gender?
It's a very powerful question. The answer that came to my mind straight away is I'd walk home at night. I'd go out
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
I would go out more.
Yeah, absolutely.
My husband wouldn't have to pick me up from the station every night.
Yep. Are we allowing women to take as many risks as men and giving them the space to do that? If we want to really break down these stereotypes for boys, it is promoting roles that involve being caring and less paid because society doesn't value those roles, which is madness.
Myself included, there's so many people that, are passionate about something, or we should change this and we should change that, but we don't do anything. We don't take the action to drive the change.
We are trying to change the future.
Yeah.
And if you're not on board with that, then...
Hello and welcome back to the Courageous Leaders podcast, brought to you by the Change Creators, where we strengthen leadership teams, creating environments where people and profits can grow together. I'm your host, Joanna Howes, and on today's episode, we're joined by the inspiring duo, Abby Wright and Jen Toll, the powerhouse co-founders behind Festival of the Girl, a trailblazing non-profit on a mission to create a world where gender stereotypes no longer limit kids' potential. So let's get started. Welcome to the show. It's brilliant to have you here. I'm very, very excited for this conversation. And I know from our previous conversations that the most courageous thing you've both done, especially together, is set up Festival of Girl. Tell me the story. How did that come about? Either one of you. Who's going first?
Who's starting?
You go for Jen.
Start? Okay, well, when I had my first daughter, I guess awakened my feminism. Is that the best way to position it? I think it was always there, but I became really I noticed she was getting all this princess stuff, and as a science background, I was thinking, where are the scientist references in all the stuff she's being bought? So I set up my first side business alongside my main role, which was not just a princess, and it was to highlight careers of women who were doing typically male roles. We also had a clothing line that said Little Princess crossed out. We had all sorts of coder, scientists, that kind of thing. And that led me to Abby, I suppose we found each other, didn't we? Because Abby was also working in the space in a slightly different way. Do you want to talk about what you were doing?
Yeah, so I was, my background is as an Alexander Technique teacher and posture specialist. And I created an organisation called She Stands. And it is aimed at girls and women and how we can physically show up in a society that wants us to be smaller, wants us to fit in, wants us to shrink. And that's what girls are doing from a very young age and carries on until we're as women. But I knew I was working mostly with women and I always wanted to work with younger girls. I'd also had a daughter. Not long after Jen. And I don't, it's one of those bizarre things. We just sort of found each other. Met for a coffee.
That lasted.
And
it's still going, isn't it?
Really? Yeah, the
good
coffee's
coffee.
still going. Yeah. It's just moved on to booze now. But it started as coffee.
I think we just decided, I remember when we met, we just decided we wanted to create something that tackled this issue we were both doing in different ways. And so the idea of tying it in with International Day of the Girl and creating an event then came up, and the fortuitous meeting of Laura, who's the third co-founder. And then we knew we could create an event, and that October was our very first event. And we had a team of about 10, 12 people who came together in the initial meeting that we facilitated and said, what can we do? How will we structure it? Some of those stuck, not all. Yeah. They had other priorities, like there's no issue there. But I guess the three of us really came together. We did it on a small budget, free venue in, I can't remember where it was. That's bad, isn't it? East London somewhere. Tower Hamlets. About 150 people came along on the day. Brilliant. It was a real kind of use our networks. And because of the reaction to that and what we learned from that, we realised there was absolutely a need for what we were doing and a market for it and a appetite because of everything the parents and the kids were saying to us on the day. They've never done this before, they've never seen this before. And so we kept going. Despite all being pregnant with our second daughter in the end, we discovered that one and a global pandemic. So we just carried on.
And that's the thing. So first of all, congratulations for what you've done. And just to acknowledge what I find so inspiring, and really what I wanted to have you on the podcast as well, is myself included, there's so many people that are passionate about something, or we should change this and we should change that, but we don't do anything. We don't take the action to drive the change. What do you think is within you both that you went, actually, we will get this event and it is going to happen and we've got the courage and the resilience to carry on? What does it take?
I think it's finding the right people. I think Jen, Laura and I work really, really well together. If I think about one of the emotions that comes out when I think about the drive behind it, it is anger. It's anger at the society our children, and especially our girls, are growing up in. And I think when I know when I had my daughter, it was the sense of everyone thinks about what they want for their kids. But I was suddenly thinking about what I didn't want for her. And I didn't want her to grow up with no confidence and not taking up space. I didn't want her to grow up and to be scared walking home because it's after dark and all of these things. And I think that and then coming together with Laura and Jen, it's just worked for us.
Yeah. I think it's that. I think we are people who generally do first and figure it out later.
Yes, very much.
Which has helped us, because if we'd actually thought about what resources we needed to get to the point we've got to now, where our running costs are double what we've currently got this year, where we're doing an event for 2,000 people in a central London venue, if we'd have thought about that at that coffee, we might have gone, oh, maybe not now.
It's such a good point. But we just do it.
We just do it, and we go, well, that's a good idea. Have we got somebody? Is there a part of our network who could help us with that? And we've grown. Our opportunities have grown organically. Almost, we haven't stumbled across them, but we've come up with lots of ideas regularly. We do meet to try kind of have a strategy of sorts ish. But then what we then take forward comes from, actually, this is going to work because of this. So we sort of feel our way, I suppose. And we are people who will just go for it. We all have our moments. We'll have our wobbles, don't we? And then there's always somebody who will go, it's fine, it'll be fine.
Just do it.
So you can balance each other
We
out.
balance each other when there's a wobble, because there will be.
Yeah.
Because Abby oversees everything. I look after a lot of the partner relationships, sponsor relationships, and Laura is the guru of the event. So Laura can go, it's fine, and then the event happens. We go, it's fine, Laura, it'll be fine, and I go, money. But we balance it, and I think that has really helped too.
And there's something you said to me when we spoke is the ability to ask for help.
Yeah,
that has been the game changer for you.
Yeah. Totally. We've always known that we can't do it just the three of us, and Laura and I also run other businesses as well, and Abby has other work as well. So we, because it makes no money currently, to be clear. I'll come back to that point, I imagine. But the ability to go, okay, who can help me? Can you introduce me to that person? Can you? We don't shy away from that. We never have done. Because we can't. You have to live and breathe it. You have to be okay with people going, oh, here she goes again, asking for what she wants.
Yeah.
But if you don't, then you don't get that connection, those networks. All of our growth has been entirely down to network and opportunity.
Right.
The old adage, if it's not what you know, it's who. Yeah. It has been down to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Completely.
And I think what also helps with asking for help, because it can feel difficult, is knowing that I'm not asking for help for me. I'm asking for help for these young girls that we're trying to,
to get yourself out the way and connect to your why.
It's bigger than us.
It's bigger than us. It's not us. It's we are trying to change the future.
Yeah.
And if you're not on board with that, then most people are.
Yeah.
So
they
that
want to see
helps.
it. Yeah. Because what are you then seeing the impact the festival's happening? What awareness? Those are kind of light bulb moments where you're suddenly seeing people go, oh my God, I just hadn't realised that this was going on. Could you share some of those?
I think some wonderful moments we've had at the festival itself is we mix up all the different activities. So, we've got sports spread out all over, but then right next to wrestling, for example, last year, there was a charity that was getting girls to write to their local MP about safe refuge for refugees. And there was one mum that came up to me and said, oh, I just walked straight past it. I didn't even think about it. But it was my daughter that stopped me and said, actually, Mum, I really want to do this. And then carried on that conversation at home with her brother and her dad. And this happens all the time where the parents come to us and say, we did not think our daughter would be interested in this, inspired by this, would engage in this. And they have then carried that conversation on at home. So it's having an impact. They've even then gone into schools, their local school, and talked about what they did at Festival of the Girl. And therefore, there's that ripple effect. And so we're seeing it and really seeing it with the girls making that change. And then their parents going, oh, yeah, I never thought of that. Or a really good one I love is when we had one where it was pink and blue jobs.
Oh, I love this, yeah.
At home. And the parent, you know, they'd come up and the woman who was running would say to the kids and their parents, you know, how do you think it's split at home? And the mum said, well, actually, I think it's split really evenly between me and my partner. And her daughter said, what are you talking about? No, it isn't. And then the daughter started listing off how much more the mum does. And the mum sort of started to think, oh, yeah, I mean, you know, and that's that mental load and all those different things. But the mum hadn't even really thought about it and just thought it was 50-50, but the children saw that it wasn't.
Yeah.
And that's a really big thing, I think.
And they are seeing it. I read an article recently where it was from a woman, a very, very successful businesswoman, mother, and it was of that generation where women were be really acknowledged in the workplace, getting the opportunities. And she was heartbroken when her daughter turned around and said, I don't want to be like you. Why? You're exhausted. You're burning out. You're trying to be a mum. You're trying to be successful. I don't see you. You're on your phone all the time. And the mum was heartbroken because she thought, I was trying to be that role model to show you can have it all and you can do business. And the daughter was just like, absolutely no way is that what I want my life to be. Have you come across any of that?
I mean, yes, I think ultimately, and I'm going to start talking about the patriarchy here, but I think ultimately we live in a patriarchal society where the system is set up that only one parent can work. If you have children, the society is as such, the childcare system, the flexible working system is set up so that one parent can work and one parent doesn't. And more often than not always, it is the mum who has to take the back seat, career-wise, that is. If she then tries to do the career thing as well, then you're battling against a system that doesn't support that. So it causes, you know, like the mental load linking into that as well, it causes a situation where you actually can't have it all. And it comes back to, well, as an aside, anyone listening, I do recommend the parody account, social media account, Man Who Has It All. Okay. Women listening, you will find this funny. Because what it does is it flips, it to your point, Jo, it flips the society with these memes and these images of sort of a guy getting ready for work, and it'll say things like, you know, you're struggling to pack the kids' lunches for the next morning. Why not lay out your clothes the night before you go to work? And we're laughing, right? Because that's the messaging that women have always had. Whereas, you know, my husband, who is a feminist, he doesn't find it that funny because he's not been bombarded with these messages. So that's an aside point to your question, because it's worth a look. And I think it's interesting how women find it funny because that's
so
the system
normal.
They're in. But I also think, and we talk a lot about this, and again, it may well come up again, but we have this definition of success and of having it all is so tied to career, power, money, jobs that are successful, jobs that are aspirational, inspirational, are the well-paid ones, are the ones that come with power and influence. That in itself is a patriarchal view of success, which is so often tied in with this stereotype of masculinity. And as a result, there's this real tension in society of, well, if women want to do it, they have to do it like men. Whereas actually, I think we're better off redefining success. And it sounds like the younger generation, to your comment, that the person you're talking, you know, they want to, they see that. And that is a big hope that redefinition, though, comes, and it isn't gendered.
Yeah,
You know,
it doesn't have to do it like, it's not I have to do it like men. We're just doing it. I'm allowed to have my definition of what success is. I remember sharing with you, I did a training this week with a group of young 20-year-olds, and it was mixed genders in the room. And it was so wonderful asking them what their top values were. And 80% of the room, including the room, it was family was number one.
Yes,
and if I do that with senior leadership teams, there's only probably 2 women in the room. We'll say family. Everybody else, it's financial security or success or wealth. I think so it was incredible to just look and go, wow, just seeing the change.
Yeah, it's great.
Just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, to please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It's a small action that makes a big difference. You'll be the first to know when new episodes drop, and your support helps us create meaningful content for leaders like you. I'd also love to hear from you, so if you have any thoughts, questions or ideas, pop them into the comments. And if you're curious about how my leadership coaching or training could support you or your team, just drop me a DM and we'll set up a call. Thanks so much. Now let's get back to the episode. So what does success mean to you both? Put you on the spot with that one. You didn't see that coming, did you?
I mean, I guess since starting Festival of the Girl, it is how many girls we can reach, how many families we can reach, and change that we can create in society, whilst showing my girls what that is as well. Because I mean, that's we started it for our own kids at the end of the day. How being that role model for them, whilst also being able to impact society, I think that's probably success for me.
Yeah, I think professionally it's impact, positive impact. Personally, it's happiness, and that's my background. I'm a positive psychologist, and happiness, actually, as we know, we sometimes don't realise, but it doesn't come from, power, wealth. You need a certain amount, but every study going shows that once you're past that, and I'm privileged to say that, I can pay my bills, actually beyond that, it's happiness. It's the little moments, it's the glimmers, it's family time, it's friendships, it's food and drink, it's great conversation. So personally and professionally, it's slightly different, but ultimately what drives my professional success is definitely impact, positive impact, so that we've left a legacy.
That's really nice.
That's what matters.
And with your positive psychology and all the work you do, so I know you go into companies, don't you, and you work with leaders.
Yeah.
What do you do with them or help them to understand? Do you connect any of the work with Festival of the Girl to what you do with leaders in psychology? Are they connected?
It's a really good question, because originally when we first set it up, I didn't. And I even used different names. Hilariously, I didn't change my name when I got married. Patriarchal issue. But anyway, I won't get on that high horse. So I didn't professionally, and I mixed them and I kind of kept them really separate. And then I realised actually they just weren't. It comes into a lot of what I do, because I work a lot in resilience and confidence. I see a lot of leadership teams. I see the difference in the confidence and resilience, the way they go about it between the genders. Not exclusively. I don't want to say that no men suffer from a lack of confidence, but women are treated differently in the workplace. And so it does come up when I'm talking about kind of the, let's say I do a lot on confident facilitation, for example. Let's say the mindset that when you're standing up in front of people, the things that go through your mind, they are different between men and women. There's
Can you give us some examples?
I think women in general are more concerned about what other people think. I think, again, in general, I want to be really careful in saying that, because it's not exclusively. I think they're less used to taking risks, getting something wrong. For example, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I can't answer a question? I think that is tied into the messages in kids, right from the get-go. If you look at messaging on clothing, just as one example, you've got perfect little princess, I'm going with the extremes, and you've got boys will be boys, you've got strong like daddy, all these the more risk-taking
and giving
behaviours, giving them permission to I think men are given more of a permission to fail, or the stereotype of masculinity, and is given more of a permission to fail, to fall over, to tumble physically, mentally. The girls are given that kind of good girl, you've got to do things right, and perfectionism, push for perfectionism. And I think that ends up, you do then see that in adults in something like standing up in front of a room. So that's one example.
That's really nice. And how have you, in terms of then leaders listening to this now, and they've got children at home, what can they maybe be mindful of in terms of how they are showing up in the workplace right now, and how that is then influencing what their home life? I
mean, that's a great question. I think it's that real understanding that wherever you are a role model to someone. And if you're, depending on what your workplace looks like and your team looks like, it's allowing that space for everyone to be able to take up space, allowing people to take risks. Sort of going back to what Jen said, the amount of research that's done in playgrounds where boys are encouraged to climb to the top of the climbing frame, and girls are told to be careful the minute they go anywhere near it.
Yeah, you're statistically more likely to say careful to a girl.
Yep. And
more
so
than a boy. Yeah.
And so can you be aware of that when you're at home? But also then, what's that like in the workplace? Are we allowing women to take as many risks as men and giving them the space to do that? And then how we're doing that at home, 'cause it's got to start at home. If we can allow our girls to take risks, push them to climb to the top of that with their brothers or the other boys in the playground, that's then going to have an impact on the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
I think a really great question to ask yourself in the workplace and at home is, would I say and do and react the same way if that person was the opposite gender? So to give you an example, actually it's a kid. I won't name the child, but I was taking my youngest to school the other day. She's just learning to ride her bike. She's 5, and she's nearly there. And a little boy in her class came up to her and said, "I can already do that. I've learnt." And I was like, "Brilliant." And I know that my reaction, and this is me talking, so we're in this field, I know that my reaction I would have felt differently if that had been I'd have been like, "Oh, that's confident for a little girl." If it's a tiny thing, but I would have noticed that. Instead, I was like, "Oh, classic." You know, he's always saying that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he's a boy.
And so you pass that on to adulthood, and you look at somebody really pushing an idea confidently in a meeting, and is your reaction we talked about likability, you know, that's really interesting. Is your reaction dislike or discomfort if it's a woman saying that versus a man saying that? And just notice that reaction. It's a really, because my husband often asks, what can I do differently? I'm like, always ask, would I do the same if the gender was swapped? Whether it's kids or in the workplace. And that will help you learn a lot about your own reactions.
It's so true. As a female I've worked with in the past in a very male environment, and she is a strong, direct woman, so very happy to say her piece, but she got called up on that. And it's like, you know, I'm not sure if that's nurturing enough. I'm not sure if that's kind enough. And my first reaction is like, just out of interest, because I know the company, I know the men are the same. Like, I'm just curious, do you think your male colleagues would have got the same feedback? She said, absolutely no way. Yeah. And I don't know how much this person was aware giving this feedback. Or again, it's just the perception and the ideals we have of how somebody should behave. Yeah. And I am seeing like Amy Keen's doing a great event called The Unlikable Woman. And I am seeing more voices come out now to say it is okay for a woman to be direct.
Yeah.
Not nasty, but direct is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still hard though. Isn't it?
I think it's a really important thing to, if you're listening to this and thinking, oh my gosh, I do that, like, don't beat yourself up about it. No. We all do it. It's so ingrained. It's been, particularly our generation, it's been absolutely in every message we've ever taken on board as we've grown up. So to unpick this takes a bit of effort, and it's not about feeling bad. It's not about feeling men listening. It's not about feeling bad. You know, it's not your fault. No. We are. I think the biggest thing we can all do is recognise that we are in a system that promotes these gender stereotypes, and so recognising them as the first stage, and then starting to challenge them, which is harder. But not feeling individually, it's my fault and I'm a bad person for doing that. Me. You know, that it's not on. It is on us to change it, but it's not on us to feel bad that individually we are a product of a system, and we have to recognise that. I think it's really important.
So I think it's sometimes noticing those micro moments, isn't it? Just noticing who's the person who seems to always take the notes in the meeting, and often, I think you said to me, who's the one who tends to go around and get teas for people and things. It's like just those little changes could make such an impact, such a difference.
Huge impact.
Just notice why you might be asking that person. Is it overall who they are? And it might be, and you might say, well, that's just that kind of person. But ask why. Why might you see them as that kind of person? So just keep questioning yourself, I think. Get curious, isn't it? It's that curious mindset. Yeah, absolutely.
And another great question that Jen asked me this question, and now I love asking everyone, is how you would feel if tomorrow you woke up and you were the opposite gender. And it is fascinating to ask people. And I even ask kids. And that is so interesting. I remember when I first asked my daughter, she immediately said, I'd play it in the playground. So straight off, I'm like, why aren't you playing it in the playground? Well, it's just for the boys. You know, so it opened up that whole conversation is such an interesting
It's a great question. I'd like to point out I don't take credit for that. That's Laura Bates, the wonderful Laura Bates. So again, if you haven't heard of her, if you're listening to this, I really recommend all of her books.
Yeah.
But actually, it's something that I know she does when she goes into school. She asks that question. So
it's a very powerful question. The answer that came to my mind straight away is I'd walk home at night. I'd go out more.
Yeah.
I would go out more.
Yeah, absolutely.
My husband wouldn't have to pick me up from the station every night.
My thing was...
Go for a run on your own.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'd never do that.
I remember suddenly feeling, when I asked myself that question, this sort of power in my body.
Yeah.
That I just suddenly was like, I would be more powerful. I really felt it in my body when I asked myself that question the first time. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's a hard question for the male gender the male stereotype to answer because, again, borrowing a quote, not mine, a guy called Michael Kimmel, TED Talk called Why Feminism is Good for Men, recommend it, men listening. He says privilege is invisible to those who have it. So that's why... men they should listen, ask the question, ask your partners, your daughters, your sisters, your colleagues. It will be harder for you to answer that question, just like it would for me to say what would my life be like if I was black. I wouldn't know, I haven't had that experience. But listen, and that's why for all of these intersectionalities, we ought to listen and be curious about what it's like.
And that leads me to, I'm not sure, is this year or next year you're launching Festival of the Boy?
Well, kind of a bit of both, isn't it? Do you want to talk about that?
We launched it this month because last Friday was International Day of the Boy, the 16th of May. But always just with the plan to... We always talked about Festival of the Boy. And we do invite boys to Festival of the Girl.
And lots of them come.
Yeah, they're very welcome. But at the same time, boys need their space where we can celebrate them, we can focus on them, and we can break down the stereotypes for them. And... we thought at the beginning of this year, why don't we just do something on socials that is about promoting, inspiring male role models who are maybe in fields that are maybe more female dominated, or are simply working in this field, are speaking about their emotions, the compassion and all of these things. And it sort of became a bit more than that when we did it. We were very lucky that we got a campaign that we threw together. Again, this I think comes back to
classic us,
what you say about the success. We had a call on Tuesday about potentially having an option to show the campaign we were thinking of in our heads on billboards around the UK. So it was a matter of just running out and like grabbing my daughter's reception teacher and being like, you be a great model. My friend's husband's a nurse, you be a great model. Grabbing someone else I knew had a camera that was pretty decent. Wow. And then my daughter's got a friend whose dad's an illustrator. And basically within 2 days, we put this campaign together, and it is now has been across the whole of the UK.
Brilliant.
To show that boys deserve role models as well. And that we need to be creating a space for them and showing those role models to them and to the girls as well.
Yeah.
And how's it being received? Because I think it's different. It is different.
It's different.
So different.
It is so different. We had... Do you want me to talk about this?
Yeah.
So we've had... It's really interesting. So obviously the list of roles where men are underrepresented is much smaller because of everything we've already talked about, the system that we're in. What was interesting is we've had generally a very positive response, I think it's fair to say. But because we had a comment which I think was actually a really fair one and illustrated an interesting point around somebody said they didn't think that being a carer was an inspirational role. And I don't think the person said it to be deliberately provocative, or it was just coming from her space. It was a female who said it, and it goes back to the point around. She sort of said, I want boys to see typically inspirational role models as well. So your, I don't know, astronauts or firefighters as well, men doing that. And we're like, we get it. We were right at the start of the campaign, as you know, it was thrown together really, really quickly. But I think what's really interesting is how as a society we see something inspirational. It has to be high paid, because it's a low paid. It shouldn't be a low paid role, being a carer for man or woman. It shouldn't be. And the point was, people go into that because they've got no other option. But then it comes back to the point we've already made around how do you define success? And that view is absolutely tied up in this idea that success is power, influence, money. as opposed to impact.
And
And you think of the impact you can have as a carer
caring.
is incredible, and yet it's not shown to boys as a, you know, we didn't get to it, but we're going to do stay-at-home dad. You know, actually seeing dads who've chosen to spend time with their family as opposed to their career, I think is hugely inspirational to show kids. But there will be people who go, do I want that for my son? Do I want that for my partner? It's a challenging situation, and I get why that comment came out, but I think it's worth discussing for all of us to think, well, why might I feel like that? Why was that affronting?
And I think, you know, and we have daughters ourselves, we don't have sons. You know, with Festival of the Girl, we are saying let's promote being a lawyer, an astronaut, the next prime minister. You know, let's promote that for our girls, and it's, you know, confidence and using your voice and standing up. If we want to really get, you know, break down these stereotypes for boys, it is promoting roles that involve being caring and less paid because society doesn't value those roles, which is madness. Being kind, it is showing your emotions.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess the question is to parents of young boys, if you really think about it, do you want, I mean, of course we want our sons to be emotionally connected and be able to speak about how they're feeling and everything. But do we necessarily want to be promoting them these roles that are less paid, that are much harder? You know, I think it's going to be a really interesting few years as we build on it.
It's going to be quite confronting, isn't it, for people? Because it's really going to put a mirror up to you. You probably go, oh, it sounds wonderful, sounds brilliant. Maybe just not for my boy.
And, you know, and I know he won't mind me saying this, but we both times we had our daughters, we didn't know if we were having a girl. And, of course, once we'd had one, my partner was like, oh, we were thinking the next one would be a boy, and then we had a girl. But he said, he admits it's much easier for me to bring my daughters up, breaking down those stereotypes, because I want them to be playing football and I want them to be doing X, Y, and Z. But I admit, if I'd had a son and I was saying, yeah, you can wear that dress and be a princess and sparkles and promoting whatever it might be, that, you know, arts and crafts, he would have found it harder. And he admits that.
Because I think he's been in that system for so long. What the expectations we all have. And it's just reminded me of watching, do you watch Race Against the World?
I don't.
Oh, it's brilliant. Highly recommend it. But
put it on my list.
It's on your list. But there's a boy on it currently who's travelling with his mum, and it was a really moving bit where there was a bit which made him get quite emotional, and his mum said, oh my God, I haven't seen you cry for 2 years.
Wow.
And then he was filmed on his own, where he then just said, actually, I've realised, you know, I'd never really seen my dad cry. Men don't show emotion. That's how I've been. He said, but I'd quite like to. And actually to show more emotion. Is that, what do you notice with the work you're doing, and how emotions coming into this, in people being able to express their emotions, male and female?
I mean, it is what it is. I think, you know, at the festival, we have
the festival's quite emotional.
So many mums come up to us in tears and just say, I can't believe what you've created for my daughter. I wish I'd had it. And they are in tears. I've never seen a man come up to us and they're joyful.
They have a lot. Grateful. I mean, we have great feedback from the dads and the uncles.
We do.
It's not only parents. I think it's important to say it's not only parents that come. It's caregivers, teachers, group leaders, that kind of thing. So we get a lot of really positive feedback, but they're not quite as
emotional about it.
Open
about it. So I guess we're really at the journey, at the beginning of the journey when it comes to boys.
Emotions.
And the emotion side of it.
It's a really interesting one, just talking about Festival of the Boy, because a lot of people have said to us about, you know, do you want more boys to come? And I think to the Festival of the Girl. And I think that point in itself is interesting, because what we create at the event, the flagship event, is a world in which girls are the majority. So anything they're trying, there's more girls than there are boys. There's most of the people that lead the activities are also female. And so they're not in that I have to join the boys playing it or football at my school environment. They're in an environment where they're the majority, which makes it feel safer, because they're used to having to push out of the stereotype, which obviously takes courage. So while we really do want boys there, because we'd love them to see all these women doing all these things, and these girls and their sisters and so on doing these things, at the same time there will be a tipping point where we won't be creating the same experience. So it will be a balance, and whatever actual event that we do eventually create for boys, which we would like to do, we'll need to consider that element as well, because they'll need, we'll need to find a lot of male nurses and carers to be there, to create that kind of, actually, this is the world I'm walking into. So if you're listening to this and you are one, then let us know.
Yeah, reach out. Because I can see how the challenge of the thinking is so different in terms of how you approach this and how it lands.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how it probably has the same impact that you're getting from Festival as a girl. It does need a different consideration, doesn't it? I can't wait to be there. It'd be brilliant. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, to please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It's a small action that makes a big difference. You'll be the first to know when new episodes drop, and your support helps us create meaningful content for leaders like you. I'd also love to hear from you, so if you have any thoughts, questions or ideas, pop them into the comments. And if you're curious about how my leadership coaching or training could support you or your team, just drop me a DM and we'll set up a call. Thanks so much. Now let's get back to the episode. Changing gears slightly, something I'm very, very interested in. I mean, you mentioned about, your Alexandra technique, your posture, that's, how people
just
are present.
Straight away.
We've all got to sit better, haven't we?
Yeah.
What are you noticing with physicality? And also thinking about, obviously, children, but also I'm thinking in the workplace, leaders listening to this. What are your observations with physicality right now?
I mean, I am going to start with children, if that is okay.
That's absolutely fine.
Because you see it in girls from so young that they start to shrink and make themselves smaller. And a great example of that is if you're taking a photo. So, I mean, this is the work I do. Yeah, I said to my 6-year-old, I'll have a photo. And it was a group of them, and there was sort of half boys, half girls. And you saw all the boys like making themselves big, sticking out their tongue, and every single girl sort of putting their knees together, arms together, like a bit of a head tilt. And of course, all the parents, they're like, oh my goodness, they're so sweet. And you imagine it. Imagine a 4-year-old girl, and she puts her head on her side and puts her arms together. Do you know what? It does look sweet. Yeah. But it is from that moment they are being praised for physically shrinking themselves. And if you can imagine, if you're constantly shrinking yourself, you can't breathe properly. Yeah. So straight away, you're taking away that groundedness and that confidence you get from just being able to breathe. It's going to impact the way your voice comes across. Your vocal projection. And it impacts how people see you. So that's sweet when you're 4. But it isn't sweet when you're 24 and you're walking into an interview, or you're in a workplace and you're a leader. You have to take that. You have to take up space. And I think there's also something about, we don't need to spread. We don't need to be in other people's space. Just take up our own space. And in the workplace, again, it impacts everything. It impacts how you're perceived, how you breathe, how you feel, how you sound when you're standing in front of a room of people. And women are up against the fact they've always been making themselves smaller. And it is tough. It's tough to change that. But I think when people are going on and on about how women need to be more confident, I'm saying, just don't think about the confidence right now. Just think about what you're doing with your body.
Yeah.
And that will start you on that road to feeling more in yourself and feeling better. Yeah. And not only that, women are up against it because it's also about how you look and how your body looks.
Absolutely.
And none of us,
from day one,
none of us fit into the perfect body type. None of us. And so you're always questioning how you look and how you feel about that. And God, and it's so depressing how young that starts for girls. So we come up against a lot. So if we can give ourselves permission, and if you are a woman, you are that role model for the younger people in your company, for your children at home, your nieces, whatever it might be, I think it's such an amazing first step to take. Do you know what? To push back against the patriarchy, just take up space, your space.
And that's so powerful. And I think what you've done there, what you've really helped with, is any women listening to this go, it's not just about you.
Yeah.
The bit your call is the reason why you can ask for help, because it's not just about you. As a leader, you go, this isn't just about me feeling uncomfortable or not sure. I need to show this is possible to all the young women out there watching me. Yeah. And change the cycle, break the cycle.
Yes, totally.
You can do that.
And I think that's easier, isn't it? When it's not about you, it's an easier reason to then go, right, I've got a purpose then to do it.
Yeah.
Something that really helped me, because I was very, very shy at school. I barely even spoke, and it took me years to find confidence. It was 7 years ago, someone turned around to me, and I was that one. I'd sit in the back of the room. I wouldn't put my hand up, all of that. And they said, you need to have more certainty in yourself. I was like, what does that mean? He's like, certainty comes before confidence, because confidence is about acting and doing it. I was like, okay. Then I just have that certainty. And one of the things was the body. Just sit with a bit more certainty. Yeah. Just certain that you're going to be okay. Certain that even if you make a mistake, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and just certain that you just trust yourself that whatever happens, you're going to figure it out. You're not going to go up in a ball of flames. It was so groundbreaking for me just to go, actually, just a bit more certainty in my body, a bit more certainty in my voice, and certainty that it doesn't matter if I make a mistake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's huge, isn't
And
it?
so I think so much this fear of failure.
Yeah.
And you said girls maybe not as encouraged to be okay to fail, to be the good girl, to look perfect, to be on show. Actually, when you can get over that fear a bit and you can use your body. Because are you familiar with Tony Robbins?
Yes.
Yeah, he talks a lot about the state, isn't it? And how important your body is. And if you get in a funk, just move. Or just stand. And the power
Definitely.
pose, isn't it?
Yes.
20%, it reduces your cortisol by
Yeah,
20%,
brilliant.
a 2-minute power pose.
Yep.
So any woman listening, again, just get in the bathroom, do
Do it.
that,
Yes.
reduce your stress by 20%.
It works.
It
It
does. I do
works.
it before
Yeah.
every training.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
training. So were you, in yourselves, did you have to do some work on yourselves? Were you ever shy or anything? Or were you naturally, what personal work have you done to be able
Oh my
to
God, so
be
much.
here now?
Constantly doing it. It never so much. I was so shy. I was such a people pleaser. I really physically shrank. And I don't really think I was subconsciously working on it. I think from about 19 because I was going to yoga. I found Alexander technique. So subconscious, I didn't know it was what I was trying to do, but I think there was part of me that knew I need help here. But really, I mean, it's not been till, having kids, I don't think. And suddenly being like, oh God, I don't want my daughter to be like that I've really started to work on it. And it's constant still.
Yeah.
It's
Still
really
working.
hard.
Yeah.
I think I've always been, for anyone that knows me that might listen, I have always been a relatively confident kid, performance and all that kind of stuff. But I think the thing that I've been really, really conscious of since getting into this field and since particularly having my kids is the body confidence element, because that is hard. That's still a struggle. I've had a wobble recently because thin is back in again. Oh, here we go. I've and my social media is constantly advertising to me, take these pills and, you can lose a stone and all that kind of stuff. And sticking with my principles is really hard. And especially my eldest is 9 now. So she's going through that. Her body is starting to change. And sticking with how you look is the least interesting thing about you. Not my phrase again. I think that's Laura Bates again. And telling her that, but also putting my makeup on and thinking about what I like to wear. So I really try to push that. We wear things for self-expression, and it's fun, and the history of makeup and dressing up is for both genders and all that kind of stuff. Knowing that inside that's not entirely, so that's the area I have to keep working on, because I know I am a product of the 90s, which were hideous as a teenager, to witness what the perfect body type, and to follow brilliant people who do remind you of that. Some great, again, Laura Bates, Alex Light is a wonderful person for this.
Molly
Forbes is amazing,
especially with kids.
Especially for kids,
Brilliant.
that's a really good point. The Body Happy organisation, anyone listening, do look at that.
Yeah.
Because that really helps you take in your own view of, actually, I'm a product of this system and I find it hard. So.
It's challenging, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, and I'm thinking what I'm hearing is we've just got to access so much of our conscious thinking to think about
Yes,
then
you do,
how are
yeah.
we showing up, because it's so easy to go on autopilot, forget your kids are around, or even, again, younger leaders around you just going, oh, I can't believe I feel like this or I look like this.
Yeah.
And suddenly your words can have
Yeah,
such
yeah.
an impact, isn't it? And I know you're very aware of the words females will use as well. Just before we wrap up, there's some, especially you've got female listeners, what are some of the words to watch out for that maybe could actually be harming your conscious?
I mean, I think there's, it goes back to my question earlier. Would you say it to a man or a woman? There's things you say without thinking. I often use the example of firemen. Lots of roles. I mean, that's a role word, but if you're reading a story or you're talking about it or you're in a park and there's a fireman's pole, it's firefighter pole. Because people say it doesn't matter, but ultimately words do matter. And if it's fireman and you're a little girl, you're going, okay, well, I can't do that. So words and images. I think another one I always talk about and find challenging, I've got 2 cats and they're a boy and a girl, and I've noticed that I do this. So pet names. So hi buddy, hi love, hi mate, and if you use pet names with people in your social circle, you might use some in workplace. I don't know how appropriate that is, depends on the type of culture you've got. But noticing that you might say buddy or mate to males and sweetheart or love to females without even thinking. And again, there will be people listening to me saying, does it matter? It's the messaging. It's, what are we actually saying with that? So I try and I'll say mate and buddy to my kids, to my girls now when I remember. And sometimes they go, why are you calling me that? I'm like, because you're my mate. It's fine. So I have to actively work on that. And I think lots of us will have those kinds of examples where they, without even thinking, will use those types of words. So start to notice them, challenge them. Yeah. And change them where you can.
Yeah, and I think also what Jen said about people being like, oh, but that's such a small thing. Does it really matter? Coming back to that idea, everything is built by small things coming together.
Yeah.
And the more those small things, it's not just that one word where you've said mate to a boy and love to a girl. It is everything they are seeing every day, constantly. All of us are. Yeah. And it's never just a small thing, ever. Yeah. So it's, and actually, but it feels more like you can, make a change, because you could go, well, I can do one small thing though, and that will make a change. Say firefighter, not fireman, police officer, whatever it might be, postie. Yeah. Say those things and it will make a difference.
It's another really simple one, just very quickly. In Caroline Criado Perez, another great author in this space, who she talks about the default male. So if you're talking about, if you're in a zoo, say, oh, he's doing this, he's doing that, all the animals are male.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Switch that up.
Oh, I've done that.
Switch that up.
You do.
So I'm quite proud actually that all of my kids' teddies seem to be female. We've gone the other way. So.
Yeah, it's good. Too far the other way. Perfect.
It is. I think it's going to require such conscious thinking, isn't it?
It is.
And that bit of, again, learning to just pause, just to go, hang on, let me just think for a second before I just go into my default setting of what I'm so used to saying from the system that I'm in.
Exactly.
And even just talking to you, like when we spoke before as well, that sense of, again, just having this knowledge, like I feel more empowered now of little things I can do just from learning from you both. And I think it's that education, isn't it? It's being willing to listen, and even if there are people going, oh, does it matter? Does it matter? You go, but if you've got that attitude, probably listen a bit more. Yeah, get even more curious to see, why does it matter then to some people? What is driving this? Because there must be something for the reason why Festival of the Girl exists, why Festival of the Boy is there, and why we need to do this work.
Definitely. And I think it's that understanding that these small what people think are the gender stereotypes when they're kids, does it really matter? The society looks the way it does today, and we have inequality today, and a lot of that is because of these gender stereotypes that are impacting us from a young age.
Yeah, thank you. On that note, with the people that are listening going, I realise I could do more, I could do better, what's a message you'd like to give out, or if there are any tips or anything else, things that are just nice little small things that they go, these are just how I could maybe see the world a little bit differently?
I mean, my initial one, but that's because of me, is take up space. What I love to say to people is think about loving your armpits, because what we do is we really squeeze in there. And if you give your armpits a bit of space, you'll suddenly open up and you can breathe more. I love saying that. But I think also the other thing that really helps me is the conversations I have. We're going to stumble. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to do all this. But actually, if I can come back to it, and maybe if it's, especially with my kids, just talk to them about it and have a conversation about it. For me, that's the two things: take up space and talk about it.
And is it fair to say you don't need to know it all, get it right?
No, you're going to get it wrong.
Embrace the messiness of it, but just embrace it.
Yeah, exactly. And you will get it wrong, and that's okay, because what's coming out of this is just you're trying. Yeah. And that's the only way we learn. So yeah, definitely.
Really nice.
Notice it and get curious.
Yeah,
all the things we said, bring it up. Have a conversation with the youngsters in your life, with your workplace team. Is that right? Is that fair? What do we think?
Yeah.
Have a conversation about it. Don't worry about yes or no, or we must make a big change.
Yeah.
It's the little things that matter. So notice them, raise them, talk about them, and then you can start to change them if they feel that you can. But those little habits will make a massive difference.
Because you made me think, I'm wondering how many leaders have sat down with their teams and gone, just really curious to know, is there anything you're noticing in this company, noticing in with the team, or is any observations that could make you feel that there's any gender biases, any gender stereotypes again, or any different treatment? I'd just love to hear you and just ask the question.
Yep.
Also, again, if you're going to ask the question, You need to be willing to listen.
Yes.
And you potentially need to be willing to go, right, let's maybe look at this one thing and see what we could do with one thing. Then we'll look at the next thing.
Yeah.
Because it's the worst, isn't it? If you share and then nothing happens, you then are not willing to really share again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think just having the courage, the courageous leaders, that the courage to ask the questions, do you notice anything? And then they might see things that you don't.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, oh gosh,
And be willing to know that that's probably there.
And be willing to not feel that anyone has to be blamed for it.
No.
Actually, as well. You know, you can, like I said earlier, we are a product of a system. Nobody is specifically at fault. They're not, I don't think any of us do this active, well, there's a few prominent politicians, but by and large, we're not actively sexist.
Yeah.
It's recognising that we do have the power to make those small changes and to notice that reaction if we feel affronted by it. That we can make a difference. That's okay, that reaction. It's not our fault. Let's move forward. And
sit in the uncomfortable.
Exactly.
It's fine. Yeah. Thank you both so much. I love the work you do. I can't wait to keep supporting your work and anything we can do to help to keep raising, awareness for this and any support you need. We'll share all your links and everything because it's such important work you're doing. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, if they want to get more involved, what's the best way for them to do that?
Just drop us an email, I'd say.
Yeah. Email?
Yeah, festivalofthegirl.com. We're very easy to find.
Check out our website. And yes, we do quite happily ask for help. So if you're out there, we need it.
Come and lean in.
Please, leaders, lean in, join us.
That's brilliant. Thank you all.
Thank you so much,
Jo.
Jo.
Thank you for inviting us.
No, it's a pleasure. We'll get you back after you've done big festival
Yes.
because there's going to be a lot of learning from that. There's a lot of learning. But thank you all so much. And thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week. If you've been enjoying the Courageous Leaders podcast, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support helps us keep creating quality content and reaching more leaders like you who are ready to grow and make a real impact. We fund this podcast ourselves, so every subscription truly makes a difference and allows us to support courageous leaders like you. Thank you for being part of the journey.